Good morning, Year 6. Welcome to Week 2, Monday's English lesson. As we did last week, we are writing a setting description, but this time our setting description is after the bomb has hit. So just to recap, hopefully you have done your reading, we are talking about a setting of World War II. So we are in 1941. And the children, Olive, Cliff and Suki, have just been to the cinema, which they would have called the Picture House, the Picture Palace. They have sat down in their seats, and when the film starts, they suddenly get a warning that there is an air raid. At this time, all of the people in the Picture House start pushing out into the foyer, and then there's a bit of hustle and bustle as they push towards the air raid shelter to get safe before any of the bombs hit from the enemy lines. So, last week we have written the setting description before the bomb hits. So we spoke about the pristine streets, how there were families walking around, ladies in their high heels and hats, men in their suits going for a treat to the Picture House. However, this week's setting description is going to be an alternative setting description. It's going to be the exact opposite after the bomb has hit. So now the streets that we once described as pristine are going to be pieces of rubble, unfortunately, and we're going to describe our senses of what we can hear and smell after the air raid has taken place. So, just a little bit of structure for you. First of all, this week we are going to be writing about the warning coming on the screen. So those big letters that tell the people in the Picture House that the film has stopped and there is an air raid happening. Secondly, the rush into the foyer with people pushing and shoving, and how worried Olive and Cliff feel because Suki isn't there at the time. Thirdly, losing sight of Suki, so losing her amongst the crowd and not knowing exactly where to go, whether to wait for her or whether to go into the air raid shelter and be safe. And fourth, when the bomb hits. So remembering that Olive is pushed to the ground when this happens and her head hits the ground, and so we can have some lovely description there about the smoke in the air and the rubble all around her as she looks up. So I have given you some pictures here, and I want you to magpie some vocabulary from these images. This is very different to what you saw last week of the 1940s streets. So these are real images that were taken after air raids took place. So as you can see, there was an immense amount of destruction. Lots and lots of houses and buildings and shops were destroyed in air raids. And as you can see in the top left picture, whole houses were often wiped out and reduced to rubble. So, some vocabulary or phrases that you could use from these images could be crumbling. You could have sentences with the word rubble. Here on the bottom left, we can see that a bus has been completely submerged in rubble and dirt and earth. You can also see that the sky is grey and thick with ash and smoke. So thick with ash and smoke could be a phrase you use this week. So once you have magpied, I would like you to make a word bank of words and phrases. Remember, the better your word bank, the better your writing will be this week. So keep flicking back to these images and have a think about what you can write in your word bank. Some examples I've given you here are: thick smoke filled the air, buildings had been reduced to rubble and ash. I would like you to write some more in your word bank in your book. Once you have made a word bank, I would then like you to stretch these words and phrases into sentences. So my example here is, we can have an onomatopoeic word, thwomp, which describes the sound of the bomb. The impact silenced my world. The ground shook beneath my feet and I cascaded towards the ground. So really stretching those phrases into nice long sentences or multiple sentences. So make sure you take a picture and either email or pop it on our class dojo of your work from this lesson, from your Magpie lesson. Overall, I am looking for a word bank and then a list of sentences that you can then use in your drafting later this week.